All right, here we are. The plan today is to finish Siman Reish Nun Dalid, and with Hashem's help, go through Reish Nun Hey, Reish Nun Vav, and start Reish Nun. So we were learning yesterday about bread, or last week I should say, about bread put in the oven. If it was put in a way that it was not allowed, so then it becomes forbidden till after Shabbos b'chdei sheyasa. Forbidden to scrape it out. I'm going to have to put you guys on mute. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, you're all muted. If you want to ask, you have to type it in. Okay. So the point is that, let me just tell them, type and use as muted you. Okay. So the point is that you're not allowed to scrape it out. It's called uvdin l'choil. Unless, the only thing is, if you have nothing else to eat on Shabbos, you're allowed to scrape out what you need for the 3 meals. And not only that, but other people can also. That's if it's before the 3 meals. If it is after the first meal, you can scrape out for 2 meals. If it's after the second, you can scrape out for 1. After the third, you can scrape out for none. However, this is all if you did this in a forbidden way. If you would have done it in a permissible way, that is to say, if it was baked before Shabbos, if there was a crust before Shabbos. We had an argument, by the way, if it has to be crusted on both sides or just on one side. But it certainly was crusted on both sides. But even if it's not one side, then you didn't do anything wrong. And you can take it out in those days with the normal way with scraping. Better to use a knife, but if not a knife, you can use a regular mirda, a regular shovel or whatever they called it, scraper peel, baker's peel we called it. Now, when it comes to challah that we bake nowadays, so we don't have to scrape it off the sides of the oven wall, obviously. So there's no particular malacha done in taking it out of the oven. So as long as it was baked in a permissible way, meaning to say that the crust formed before Shabbos, there's no problem to take it out of the oven. Now, if it was baked in a forbidden way, then the bread is forbidden till after Shabbos. So you're not allowed to take it out because you're basically taking out something that has no use on Shabbos. It's muktzah and whatnot. Although now that I'm remembering, if you remember, before it's baked, you should take it out because it's usser the longer you leave it in there because you might stoke it. But if you remember after it's baked, then there's no point in taking it out because there's no use for it on Shabbos. You just have to leave it in. So if you baked it in a permissible way, so then you could take it out on Shabbos, even if you have bread for the 3 meals, as long as you're going to have some use for it on Shabbos. If you have no use for it on Shabbos whatsoever, you're not allowed to take it out on Shabbos just because you can't take anything out. You can't move anything on Shabbos for after Shabbos use. You can't, chill your Havdalah wine on Shabbos. You can't bring your, sitter back home for Havdalah from shul or whatever it is on Shabbos. Anything like that, even if it's just with an Eruv and you're not doing any malacha whatsoever. You can't prepare even without a malacha for after Shabbos, so the same thing applies over here. That was just a brief review. And now, with no further ado, we continue with Seif Yud Beis. All right. Here goes. You know what? Let's start with the Machaber, as we've been doing. And then we'll go over to the Alter Rebbe. So this is Reish Nun Dalid, Seif Yud Beis. We just started a few minutes ago. Actually, we started with review, and now we're starting the actual new stuff, which is Seif Vav in the Machaber. Oh, something new. Ve'im nasnu.
משתכללים. Real no, I have it for so many years. Today I get everything. But before I put it in the computer and I heard a listening class from Rabbi Lipskin from Bel Arbor for many years.
אם נסנו בשבס אפילו במייזן מותר ללירס קודם שיפה כדי שלא יבואו, כדי שלא יבואו לידי איסר סקיל. Okay, a person who put bread into an oven on Shabbos, chas v'shalom, if he did it b'mezid and it bakes, he's chayiv skila.
Like a dough?
Dough. He put a dough in an oven on Shabbos. If he did it on purpose and it bakes, he's chayiv skila. If he did it by accident, forgot that it was Shabbos, then he's chayiv chatas. When Mashiach comes, I'll have to bring a korban chatas, like any person who does an aveira on Shabbos, labor on Shabbos, forgetting that it's Shabbos or forgetting that it's a labor, has to bring a korban chatas. Now, the question is, what if he remembers while the dough is still a dough, before it's baked? The question is he allowed to take it out in order to save himself from
finishing the
malacha and being either chayav chatas or skila, chas v'shalom? Actually, technically, the Gemara says that he would not really be chayav chatas if he remembered in the middle. In order to be chayav chatas, a person has to forget from beginning to end. That means he forgot it was Shabbos, he put it in, he continued forgetting it was Shabbos until he took it out. Then he remembered. Then he's chayav chatas. But if you remembered in the middle, he's not chayav chatas. It has to be tchilasoi v'soifoi b'shoigig. It has to be a shoigig.
But the question, if he's allowed to take it out.
So here's the question. If he remembers in the middle, he's not going to be chayav chatas, but he's still doing an aveira, which is generally chayav chatas. He's not chayav chatas because of a technicality. Because to be chayav chatas, you have to forget the whole time. So he's not going to actually have to bring the korban chatas, but he's doing an aveira that is a serious aveira that relates to a korban chatas, or even skila if it would have been on purpose. So the question is he allowed to take it out before he comes to the severe aveira? And the answer is that he is. That's what the Gemara says.
Wow.
Even though in some cases we say that the Chachamim insisted that you keep their gzeras, that you keep their decrees, even if keeping them is going to lead to a chiyav chatas. We do have some other cases, Tosfos points out, but nevertheless the Chachamim decided which gzeras were very serious and which they were going to be lenient about. And this one they felt Radiyas Apas is not really a malacha. The Gemara says Chachma hivein a malacha. It's not a real malacha. Even with a rabbanon, scraping it out of the oven. Okay, it's like a professional type of work. So the Chachamim forbade it, but it's not a very serious malacha. So the Chachamim did not insist that the person not do it in a case that would lead to his doing a chiyav chatas or skil.
I was thinking, why they don't let him go being a goy? Or it's no time to go look for a goy. Maybe
he doesn't have to look for a goy. He can do it himself. That's what we're saying. He can do it himself. I mean, nowadays he can do it himself for sure because there is no scraping involved. You don't have to scrape it. Just take it out.
Yeah, it's tough.
There's no malacha. But even in those days when you had to scrape it, which involved some kind of malacha with rabbanon, nevertheless it was allowed. Okay. This is all clear. Tosfos on the page, Shabbos Dalet Amud Aleph, brings up a question here. And this has to do with a different Gemara. So in order to get clear on this, let's just look at the handout which I emailed out earlier. If you have it on your tablet or computer or other device, or in paper, if you have it, also good. So basically, there's three sources I put into this. We have Shabbos Dal Amud Aleph 4a. Let's start with that. Rav Bibi Bar Abaya asks, if a person placed a loaf of bread in an oven, do they permit him to remove it before he becomes chayev chatas or not? Now, Rav Acha Bar Abaya asks Ravina, as I mentioned before, what is the case that you're suggesting he would be chayev chatas? If he forgot, and now he remembered, obviously, because he wants to take it out, well, he's not chayev chatas. Because to be chayev chatas, like we said, he has to have forgotten from beginning to end. So, and if he still forgot, well, who's taking it out? If he still forgot, he doesn't know there's anything wrong. Why would he want to take it out? So, one answer is, Rav Shiloi says that Hitaka still forgot. And we're talking about other people doing it for him. Other people, he put it in the oven. He went off to do whatever he went off to do. And other people see that this bread is in the oven. They want to save him from a chiyav chatas. So they, perhaps, or people Rabbi is questioning, perhaps they should be allowed to remove it before he comes to a chiyav chatas. That's the Gemara's question.
But they will make a sin also.
That's exactly the Gemara's question. Rav Shesha's question is, do we tell a person, V'chi oimer lo la'adam chatei, b'shvil sheyizka chavercha? Do we tell a person to sin in order that his friend should get his chus? In other words, we don't. Since when do we do that? That's not acceptable. Why should we tell one person to sin, even a minor sin, in order to help somebody else from getting an aveir? No, not chatat. Rediyat apar is not chatat. It's derabanan.
If you were going to remove the fire on Shabbat,
You're not removing the fire. You're removing the dough from the fire.
This is chatat.
No, there's not chatat. There's 39 melachot, and removing dough from fire is not one of those. Rediyat apat is mederabanan because it's a maaseh umanut. It's like a professional kind of activity. So they said, don't do it on Shabbos. It's not even a malacha, we said. It's not related to one of the 39 malachas. It's just like a maaseh uman. So it's like udin the choil. It's not a proper Shabbos activity.
What about not aver ish?
You're not touching the fire. You're just taking out the bread or the dough, whatever.
Here they let go.
So the Gemara answers. The Gemara accepts Rav Shesh's question, basically, and accepts that a person would not be allowed to take out the dough in order to save somebody else from a chiyav chatas. And instead, Rav Ashi says we're talking about he did it b'mezid, he did it on purpose, and it's the person himself that we're allowing to take it out before he comes to a chiyav chatas.
It's Shehiya, he did it.
Not Shehiya. He did it on Shabbos, b'mezid. He baked bread on Shabbos. All of a sudden, a hero tshuva came over him, and he decided he doesn't want to do this aveira. So he's allowed to scrape it out, even though he's doing this at Rabbanan, to save himself from a chiyav chatas, which the Gemara says it's not a chatas, it's a skila. So the Gemara changes it and changes it to chatas. Skila. Person who does Isur Shabbos on purpose, he's chayav misa. He deserves to die with a very severe death, skila, stoning.
And if it's not with witnesses, it's Yidei Shammai.
Even so, it's a chiyav skila. He's not going to get skila, but it's a chiyav skila. Just like the case of the chatas, he's not going to get chatas, but it's a chiyav chatas. You know what I mean?
Why would he give a chatas?
No, I'm saying.
If it's not
no, in the end, he's not going to get a chatas if he remembers.
Yeah.
I'm saying he remembers. The Shulchan Aruch paskins, even though it's not clear in the Gemara, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, he's allowed to take it out before he comes to a chiyav chatas if he remembers. Even though he's not going to get a chatas, but he's going to be doing an aveira that is generally chayav a chatas. He's getting out on a technicality, but he's still doing the aveira. He would be doing the aveira, so they're letting him out. So it's not the actual skila necessarily that he's being saved from, but it's the chiyav skila. So
and that gives like a person like just a big avera or a blemish in his neshama.
Both.
A din.
Both. All.
Life.
All. I mean, there's a Gemara that says that
nowadays they kill people.
Din arba amas. Din arba amas le'batla. Din arba misas le'batla.
And if you're supposed to get strangled.
Yeah. So that could be too. I mean, we can do tshuva nowadays. That's the difference. But yeah, in theory, it's still punishable in Hashem's hands. But the point is that
He does a lesser sin to save himself.
he does a lesser sin to save himself from a bigger sin. And this is how Rabbi Bibi Bar Abaya's teaching went according to Rav Abba, son of Rava. He said it clearly about a person who does that on purpose. If a person puts a loaf in an oven, he can take it out before he comes to a chiyuv skila. So that's how the Gemara finishes. So in Shulchan Aruch, the psak is that he himself can take it out, whether he put it in on purpose or he put it in by accident. So on purpose, actually, let me look at the language. Afilu b'mezid, even if you put it in on purpose, where you might say, well, it's his own fault. Maybe you shouldn't help him out. We shouldn't give him a heter to take it out. No, even though it was on purpose, we still let him take it out. And how much more so if he did it by accident, even though it's not as bad a punishment, because it's only a chiyuv skila, chiyuv chatas. That's not actual chiyuv chatas, but it's a sin that would be chayav chatas. Even so, we let him take it out to protect himself from that sin.
Wouldn't the kal v'chomer be towards the amazing?
1 second, I got to put the volume up. I turned you guys down because there's too much noise. Go ahead. What was your question?
Wouldn't you learn from the kal v'chomer the mistake they choose the amazing?
There's actually two ways of learning this kal v'chomer, because afilu b'mezid is a chiddush, even though he did it on purpose, so maybe we shouldn't help him. Nevertheless, he can do it. But on the other hand, some say, well, even if it's a shoygig where he's not going to get punished so badly, even so he can do it. So Shulchan uses this kol sheken, but the other kol sheken is also a valid way. So, by the way, Tosfos asks, what if we wouldn't paskin that he's allowed to take it out before he comes to a chiyuv skila? Would he really listen to us? I mean, his life is at stake. I mean, if there were witnesses and warning and everything. So would he really listen to us and not take it out? So
Well, we're not saying that he will. We're saying he might, aren't we?
I'm saying, what's the point of paskening? Tosfos is saying, what's the point of paskening? He's not allowed to take it out. If for sure he's going to take it out, he's not going to want to put his life.
Even if there were witnesses.
Sorry.
Even if there weren't witnesses, he's still allowed to do it.
No, the Gemara Tosfos is asking, why do we even? What's the point of telling him, perhaps, that he's not going to take it out? Of course, he's going to do it to save himself.
Yeah, but
I thought it's
Is it deraisa, or in the case of skila, actual skila, perhaps save himself from actual skila?
either way, no one of Shechiya would want to save himself from Shadaraisa or death.
Tosfos is asking about death. Maybe you could extend it. I don't know.
only if he takes it out as a loaf. If he allows it to burn in there, then that's not a problem.
No, that's a problem. That's still a problem. Still a problem. Person does a malacha and then the malacha gets ruined. Is chayiv.
Oh, I thought that we said that we wanted to save him before he takes it out, because taking it out is the problem.
No. Leaving it in is the problem because it bakes. I'm talking about taking it out before it bakes.
Ah,
So
okay.
it reaches Michael Bender, so before it gets a crust, is when you have to take it out to be potter, to be exempt. So Tosfos says an interesting thing. Tosfos says, if we would tell him that he's not allowed to take it out, then he would not be chayiv misa, because it wouldn't be his fault at that point. It's an interesting thing, because by wanting to take it out, he would become potter. If he wouldn't want to take it out, if he wouldn't be interested in taking it out, so he would be chayiv. But by wanting to take it out and being told by the chacham, you're not allowed to take it out, that becomes like an oinus, and he would be potter. So it's an interesting thing. So in the end, it's not even saving himself from a chiyuv skila, an actual chiyuv skila, because he wouldn't be chayiv skila if he would tell him not to take it out. It's saving himself from an isser of skila, from an isser relating to skila.
Chachamim would never go down such a thing to not take it out and take it upon themselves, so to speak, and cause him to be exempted.
Cause him to be exempted? What do you mean?
Because if he's not allowed to take it out, if they're asking that if he did the major can't
You're asking why the Chachamim did that? Why did they do that?
didn't.
Why didn't they? So, I mean, the Tosfos points out that in some cases they did. In some cases they said you can't do an Isser de Rabbanan even to save yourself from an Isser Deraisa. So the Chachamim decide which Isurim they're going to be strict on and which not. They felt this was not so serious to insist on it, even in this case.
So it's kind of similar. That what it brings down in the case of a fast, if it's a rabbinic fast and you made a bracha, and you forgot there was a fast, so you should still taste the food because according to Sman, it's a direct Hashem's in vain.
Right.
So it's better to do it.
Right. I've seen that discussion, yeah. I think there are different opinions, but I have seen that, yeah. Same thing.
Hold that we're using Hashem's name. Oh, that would be another example. The Shema doesn't say that like a bracha that you thought you had to make and now you realize you don't. Is it Mr. Horizon?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I know it's like a lot of times we say Safek Bracha Ba'akel because it's not worth it to make a Safek Mitzvah D'Rabbanan of a bracha
Right.
and go over a Safek Isser D'Oraisa.
Yeah, a wanton misuse of Hashem's name is definitely a deraisa, like on purpose.
Oh,
No, wanton on purpose is definitely deraisa. But if you said it thinking that it wasn't wrong, I'm not sure. Not sure. So here we have an issue that Tosfos brings up, and not that we learn every Tosfos, but this has some halachic relevance. Tosfos asks that we see elsewhere that a person does do an aveira in order to save somebody else from a more serious aveira. And the Gemara is in Eruvin, in Lamed Beis, Amud Aleph and Amud Beis, where Rebbe says, if you send a Talmid Chacham to fill a basket of figs, and you don't, you send an Amoretz to fill a basket of figs from your fig tree. Another Talmid Chacham who hears this conversation can assume that the basket that the Amoretz is filling is already been, Meiser has already been taken from it. No, can't rely on the Amoretz. Amoretz anyway is not the owner; he's not authorized to take off Meiser. He can assume that the owner of the field took off Meiser in order to protect this Amoretz from perhaps eating some of the fruit when the Meiser was not taken off. Now the point over here is that there is an Isser to separate Truma and Meiser Shaloi min Hamukaf. Min Hamukaf means from stuff that's in front of you. In general, you have to separate Truma and Meiser when it's in front of you. You can't take it off in a distance to be there, right? This is, by the way, one of the main differences between Mahadran and not Mahadran, fruits and vegetables in Eretz Yisrael.
Like we learn, if you have a field, I will take it when it's done. No, you cannot do that. Only when you have the perot ready, then you must.
Yeah, but besides that, the question is, do you have to be there or can you do it from a distance?
Distance.
What is it? Can you give an example? Like you said, this quarter or this amount of tenth of the field is Meiser? That's what you mean?
No, let's say you know that there's a certain amount of produce in a granary, and you're sitting on the other side of the country, and you have some other tevel of the same grain, and you say, I'm going to take off from this tevel, from this untied grain, I'm going to take off both for what I have here and for the grain on the other side of the country. You know how much it is, and I'm going to take off for that amount.
Are both completely acceptable, or is it question?
No, it's aser lechatchila to separate shalom and hamukaf. The diavad is okay. Shalom and hamukaf if it's not present. I think the word mukaf comes from like surrounding, like something around you, like mukaf chayma. You know what I mean? Something like that. Something around you.
So as consumer, why do I care whether it was before or after?
Whether it was present or not present, is that your question?
That's right, as a consumer in Eretz Yisrael.
Honestly, I think it's to know that it was done in the best way. B'diavad, either one is fine. It's only lechatchila. That's what I've heard. I mean, there may be, I'm sure there's other advantages to Mahadran, but I heard one of the things is that the non-Mahadran places, they don't have a mashgiach on site in all their fields, but they know, I guess they know, they get a report how much there is, and they separate, in one location for all of them.
That's what Rabbanut uses?
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. I mean, I heard this many years ago, so I'm not responsible. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody, but that's what I heard.
The field
Yes.
is already, it's ready to go to Maser, or he said.
You always have to separate when it's only chayiv and meiser. You can't separate before it's chayiv. It's not chayiv until it's processed. Each fruit and vegetable has its stage when it's considered processed. So I actually called once a certain Rav about a certain restaurant, which I had heard that there was maybe not challah being taken off properly. And he said, you know what, even if it's not, I have in my freezer, I have some dough that I keep to be able to separate just in case anybody doesn't separate. I have in mind, I don't remember exactly how he did it, tonight, I don't remember. But it was interesting because separating challah is the same principle, right, as separating truma and
So
ma'aser.
it's not even their challah.
How do you
He's not
separate?
the owner of someone else's challah.
How do you separate for somebody else's challah? I mean, you could be zach and l'adam shlei b'fanav. You can't take from theirs to take without permission.
You can't take myself from there.
No.
If I know someone doesn't give me, or for example, I'm not going to get straight and saying, if I was in Israel and I know this guy is an irreligious guy, I can't go take a tenth of his stuff.
No. Kein terimu gam atem l'rab shluchachim. It has to be a shliach. If you don't have permission, you can't take. Because you're taking his stuff away from him. You can only.
What's the eating from before Pesach when I was selling people's chalitz? I never understood it, but people say what's
I don't know. I've only heard of it in cases where they usually sell it, and this time maybe they forgot. So it's like you're assuming that they really want to, but to sell it for somebody who doesn't want to, I don't know.
I thought that's what before people do.
I don't know.
Because I guess the issue there is eating chalitz.
Eating chametz is not. You're not helping them from eating chametz. I mean,
No. Oh, so I guess over here it's eating stolen food, which is not yours. It's not going.
I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know what that's from. Anyway, the point is that anyway. So Rebbe says that we assume that the owner of the field separated meiser for that basket to save the Amaretz from eating from it without taking off truma and meiser.
We're going to save them.
Sorry?
Amaretz הוא פטור.
למה פטור?
הוא לא פטור.
למה? הוא יהודי.
It's like עיוור הוא לא יכול לעשות כאן מצווה, אז הוא פטור.
לא פטור, עיוור בכלל לא פטור ממצוות, עיוור חייב בכל המצוות.
בכל המצוות הוא חייב בכמה מצוות הוא פטור.
זה ראייה, יראה הכל זכורך. הוא לא יכול לראות, אז הוא פטור.
ומה עם קשת מצווה?
לא, בסדר.
Is there actually an Isser involved in this case, though?
There is an Isser. He's separating Shalom min Amok. If he's not present, or I should say his grain is not in front of him, or his figs, or whatever they are.
Well, we're talking about
Small Isser to save the Amoris from a serious Isser of Tevel, eating untevel.
we're not talking about grain necessarily, are we? We're talking about figs.
Talking about, I believe it's dates.
Or dates then. So it would make sense that he would do it for something that the person is just going to pop into his mouth while he's doing it. But surely you could imagine in this case that he's not doing it for his wider field. He's saying, okay, assuming that there are going to be some Amaratzim who are going to pick stuff, I'm going to take a small amount now, but he can also take more later on as well, can't he?
Well, he could take for what the Amaretz is taking now for that basket, And the rest of his field he'll take later, certainly. He's not going to take from the whole field now. Anyway, you can't separate before it's harvested. So he's only taking from this basket.
The separation itself is an isser because he's not. I can't see what action he's taking that's actually wrong.
Separating truma and meiser without the stuff that he's separating from being present. He's doing it in his room, and the stuff he's separating from is in the field. So it's called shalom and amukav. It's not present. So that's not the best. That's lachatchila forbidden. He's doing it to save the Am Haaretz from the prohibition of eating teva.
But what if you say this is just an in case, and I'll actually separate for real later on, or additionally later on?
Oh, in case he eats from it, then it's separated, and if you don't, he doesn't?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if you'll ever know.
Yeah, but then he takes later on what he would take anyway.
Yeah, but I don't know if you'll ever know. So how are you going to take again later on? I don't know. It's too complicated.
עיוור, פטור מציצית, הוא ייתן אותו?
כן, מפורש, הוא פטור. כן, כי אחרים רואים. ראיתם אותו, זה זמן של ראייה, זה ביום. לא שהוא עצמו יכול, דווקא צריך להיות. חייב. Okay, so the point is, so Tosfos asks, we see over there, actually the Gemara says clearly, the words of the Gemara are, Nicha leila chover, lasois, you know what, I don't have the words in front of me, but it's basically aveira katana, kadesh yasel ama'aretz me'aveira rabba. You know what, the wording I'm using does not sound right.
Over there is though, it's b'diavad mutter.
אנחנו עדיין לא...
לא, זה מה שאתה רוצה.
כן, עוד מעט.
עוד מעט.
Over there it's
Sorry?
it's b'diavad mutter.
But it's still an isser. It's a small isser.
It's not an isser when it's b'diavad mutter. L'chatchila it's also.
L'chatchila, it's aser, and he's doing it l'chatchila. He's doing it l'chatchila. He's doing it beforehand. It's forbidden to do beforehand. And he's doing it to protect somebody else from a more serious aveira.
Yeah, I'm saying, when we say b'shas adchak k'diavad dami, we have to go like...
The shas adchak is to save somebody else from that aveira. So he's making, the shas adchak is being created by his need to save another Jew.
Yeah.
So that is, in and of itself, what the concept is. In other words, it's not a real shas adchak. It's a shas adchak that we are considering a shas adchak. We consider that a shas adchak. We tell him, do something that's normally forbidden. This is a shas adchak. You understand?
Sure. In this case, it's not forbidden.
It becomes not forbidden because of this psak. That's the point. If not for this psak, you would say, I'm sorry, it's not shas adchak. It's his problem. It's not my problem.
Again, it's not that it becomes, it's not that it's usher, and then once we have someone who's about to do an avera, it becomes, so to speak, less usher.
It is aser.
It turns into mutter.
It is aser. It only turns into
mitzvah.
it becomes a mitzvah because we're considering this a shas adchak. This shas adchak is creating the heter. Otherwise, we wouldn't. If not for this, we wouldn't consider shas adchak. It's not his problem. I'll give, in other words,
we tell him.
In fact, we do, but Tosfos asked the question. Let me find it 1 second. Where is it? 32, sorry. Okay, mutav sheyechashtu chaverim litem shlem and amukav hayachila me'aretz tavalim. Better that he should take it off when it's not present, rather than have the amaretz eat tevel. Rabbi savar nichle lechaver le'avid hu isura klila, v'lo le'avid amaretz isura rabba. Better he should do a small aveira than to have the amaretz do a big aveira. Okay. So how does it reconcile with what we're saying? That we don't say to a person, do an aveira to save somebody from a bigger aveira. So Tosfos answers, the difference is, Over here, he is the cause for that Aveira. If you in any way cause somebody else to do an Aveira, or might be considered the cause, then you have to put yourself out and save them. So here, he gave him the fruit, and he put him in a situation, even though you could say, well, he should know, Meiser, he doesn't know. So you're setting him up for a problem. You set him up for the problem, you have to fix it, even if it involves a small Aveira in your part. Just like you can do a small Aveira on your part to save yourself from a big Aveira, because it's yourself, of course. That's what we're saying in our Gemara. So the same thing here, you can do a small Aveira to save somebody else from a big Aveira if that Aveira is attributable to you, because that's really you, an extension of you.
So it's the same reason when he put the bread by accident or on purpose, and they want to save them, that's when he take the Avera in hand.
He can take it out himself, but the other person cannot.
So that's why they allow to other person to save them.
The person himself can take it out, but nobody else can take it out.
If we talked about before, if somebody did a sin to put the bread and we let somebody else to remove it.
No. Oh, in the case of the person who did it b'shogeg.
Yes.
Actually, that's true.
So
Rav
he
Shehiya
will take
said
his
that.
sin.
Rav Shehiya said that. In the case that the one person.
My daughter's graduating.
Mazel tov, mazel tov.
Floating and-
You want to sneot?
What?
You want to sneot? With the earphone? It's okay. Go have fun.
So
So
that's an interesting point. It's an interesting point, actually. Although that's not brought down in halacha here, but that's an interesting question.
I think they take the same.
What was the question?
If we talked about before.
Rav Shehiya said, if you look back in the Gemara, that other people can save him if he never remembered. Remember that? Oh no, I'm sorry. Rav Sheshes questioned it. Rav Sheshes questioned it and knocked him off. Rav Shehiya thought it was allowed. Rav Sheshes said, no, it's not.
We talked about
Rav Sheshes knocked it off. He said, we don't tell a person to do that. So it was a hava amina. We thought that it was allowed. Rav Sheshes said it's not allowed. Okay, so here's the bottom line. If a person is the cause of it, he can do an aveira. Now, one other point here, and that is that we have a Gemara, not a Gemara, we have a Chuvas Arashba. Chuvas Arashba is, it's brought in Siman Shin Vav 306. And it talks about a girl who was kidnapped. And she's being taken by the Goyim. And unfortunately, in those days, even nowadays, unfortunately, sometimes people are kidnapped and never heard from again. But in those days, it was not uncommon. They would kidnap the girls, especially. I guess they were easier targets. And they would take them. They would make them Christians. They would marry them off to whatever Goyim. You would never hear of them again. So their life was not at stake, but their spiritual life was at stake. And the Rashba paskin that a person is allowed to be machal al Shabbos in order to save. In that case, it was his daughter. No. The Shaila was about a person's daughter, and the Rashba said he's allowed to go be Machal Shabbos and save his daughter, because it's better that he should desecrate one Shabbos than have her desecrate all the Shabboses of the rest of her life. And the Mefarshim say that even though the Rashba said he's allowed to, really it means he has to. It's not a permission, it's an obligation. And not only for the person's daughter, but anybody else's daughter also. So there we see that you're doing a small aveira, say it's a Shabbos, but it's one chilul Shabbos to save her from a big aveira, which is many chilulei Shabbos, right? Or the chilul of many Shabbos, however you say. She is being saved from many, many aveiras. You're doing one aveira, and it says that it's allowed. So it's what's going on here? The Magen Avraham points out this discrepancy. And he says that it has to do with the fact that in our case, the person was poisheya. When the person is poisheya, when the person does a act of negligence, or in our case, maybe even amaze it, right? He put it in the oven on purpose, or even if he did it by accident, but he was still pasha, he wasn't careful. So he did something wrong. That's when we say you don't do a small avera to save him from the big avera that he did in a way that was his fault. But if in a case where the girl was being taken beyond her control, then we say she didn't do anything wrong, and you can rather do a small avera to save her from a big avera.
What if she was walking in a dangerous part of the neighborhood? That's now we face like a games. She negligent.
I don't think that's negligent compared to what she's ending up with. You know what I mean? Here he was negligent in this thing. He was negligent in this avera, and you're saving from this avera. But there she was negligent in self-defense and in protection. She didn't think she was going to be, you know what I mean, going to be kidnapped and taken away from her fates. It's a whole other level. So Yaakov, can we say that he is actually doing it for his benefit, Talmud Chacham giving him his basket, because he would otherwise be placing an obstacle before a blind person, which is the Iraisa? Well, I don't want to, I mean, it's kind of what Tosfos is saying. What you're asking, Yossi, is kind of what Tosfos is saying. Tosfos is saying, if you are the cause of it, then you can do a small avera to save from a big avera. It's
I missed that. I had to reboot my laptop. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know if he uses the word lifnei iver. Let me see. Just 1 second. This is on Lamed Beis, Amud Beis.
I also missed the context behind the kidnapping.
A girl was kidnapped, and the Rashba said her father can desecrate Shabbos to save her, so that one Shabbos is desecrated to save many Shabbos that she can keep for the rest of her life, even though it's a small avera for a big avera, and he has no part in the big avera, but she didn't do anything wrong. If the person did not do anything wrong, then another person obligated to save them from a big avera by doing a small avera.
I mean, even if she got kidnapped on a Tuesday, and they've been looking since Tuesday, so you can continue looking with Machal and Shabbos.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just like if...
I'm hoping that was the question. I'm hoping the question wasn't, Rabbi, my daughter just got kidnapped.
Why not?
Sounds like common sense.
I mean, it seems like common sense to us in hindsight, but if he was the first one that ever had the question, you know,
Rabbi, it's not
it's different. I mean, the whole thing about
Yeah, it's fake as if she's there. You're saying there's no something with her name.
I mean, at least that's the way the question was posed. That she was being taken and she was going to be forcibly converted. At least that's what they assumed. But I'm saying the whole concept that we don't give up our life to keep Shabbos is also, you know, nowadays we know it. At the time of the Gemara, there was controversy about it. I mean, the Chacham discussed it. They came to the conclusion that yes. But I'm saying when they had the question originally, it wasn't 100% clear. They had to figure it out.
So it's no time limit on it. I guess. It's any time you must go there and say.
Yeah. Yep.
If she
So-
wears provocative clothing, is she being pushed?
I don't know. Again, that's like going in a dangerous place. She didn't expect that to lead to her being kidnapped and being taken from her family and her faith. I can't imagine that in any way she expected those. We're not talking about, that's a different kind of pshia. We're not talking about a pshia in one area that leads to this problem. We're talking about pshia in that area. Okay, so I'll just mention this, even though I must say I did not do proper research on this question, but it's just a topic that does come up often in our present-day American, situation, where a person wants to invite somebody for a Shabbos meal, and that person is not Shabbos observant, and they may drive on Shabbos. So the question is, the argument for it is, well, they're going to come close, they're going to like Shabbos, they're going to see what it means from family, from environment, the whole Shabbos experience, and hopefully they'll become Baalei Shomer Shabbos. So it's worth having them perhaps do the small Avera, it's a serious Avera, but it's worth it perhaps to turn them around and their family, their children, their grandchildren. It's like amazing. On the other hand, do we tell somebody to do a small avera to stop themselves from a big avera? So Rav Moshe Feinstein holds clearly, very clearly, that it's aser. He says you're not allowed to. He calls it like a masis, like you're being masis. You're trying to convince somebody to do an avera. And the person who wants to follow that view will only invite somebody in walking distance. And or another way that's kind of a way around it, but it's I've discussed it with our bottom. You invite them to come before Shabbos, and you have a place for them to sleep, and you invite them to sleep. If they choose to sleep, good, and if they don't, that's their choice. However, I do want to say this is not a halacha lemaisa. Lemaisa, if somebody asks me, that's how I pass them. Come on Friday, invite them Friday night. No, I pass them come on Friday night before Shabbos and invite them to stay. But lemaisa, this shaila was posed to Rav Shlomo Zalman when they wanted to come out with a big kol koire. They wanted to come out with a big proclamation about this isser, that you're not allowed to invite people to come on Shabbos if you know they're going to drive, and a lot of Rabbanim were signing on to it, and Rav Shlomo Zalman did not want to sign on to it. Didn't want to sign on to it, and I don't know if he explained why not, but it's been suggested that this may be relating to what we're learning now. That if the person himself is doing a small avera, for himself to protect himself from big averas later, that's different. In other words, you can't do a small avera to save him from a big avera. But if he is doing a small avera to save himself from a big avera, it's not so clear that's forbidden. Like we see here, you can take out the dough, save yourself from a skila. And even though here they're both big averas, but it's once against many. Or maybe it's not once, maybe it's 10, 20, 30, but it's against the whole life. Just like by the girl who's being kidnapped, where one Shabbos, you're saving her from many Shabbos. So that was the thought that perhaps you're not. Perhaps that's what Rav Shlomo Zalman, he didn't want to say it's mutter. He just didn't want to sign.
Is there anyone who says exclusive yes?
I don't know. But I don't know.
So my understanding of this particular situation was that if it were feasible for them to walk, even, for example, if they're outside of the tchum, you shouldn't invite them on Shabbos. But if they're within a tchum and it's feasible and reasonable, even if you're pretty sure they're going to drive, then there isn't a problem. Is my understanding?
Correct.
What was the statement?
That if they're within the tchum and they're able to walk in a reasonable way, that you can invite them.
What's a reasonable walk?
I don't know. Each person according to their.
Where's the tchum? Where the tchum end in Florida?
I mean, it depends where you live. I live.
Doesn't it have to be a certain distance outside of where everyone stops living?
Exactly, but I live in Surfside, and if you continue going north, you have a Hollover Bridge and Hollover Park that cuts off the cities from each other. You can't walk from Surfside to Sunny Isles or vice versa. Same thing from Bay Harbor to North Miami. There's the causeway there, whatever that causeway is called, Broad Causeway. I don't remember what it's called. And that creates a separation. Can't walk from North Miami to Bay Harbor or vice versa.
What about Lehman's causeway?
William Lehman's you can because there's an Eruv there. So that creates a connection.
It's within an Eruv.
There's an Eruv across the bridge.
Eruv across the bridge.
There's an Eruv across the William Lehman Causeway. There's no Eruv across the other bridges because those bridges go up. It wouldn't even be possible to put an Eruv on them.
What about the Eruv? What about the bridge in Biscayne? We must see Ives Dairy. Can we scan it?
It's not a bridge. It's just an underpass. That doesn't create a separation. It's the bridge with nobody living on either side in the water that creates a separation.
That's what it has to be.
Yeah, for the Tchum.
But not because it's a bridge and
No, it's the fact that it's outside of the Tchum. That creates a separation which causes the Tchum. What about if there's a shul in a rural area and the rabbi sends an email to the community with an answer of Shas, for example, Shachas Shas at 10 a.m., Saturday morning, Kiddush at noon, if he knows that he's the only Orthodox shul within a 20-mile radius, and people clearly will be driving to him because half the people in his community are not so from. Should he still send that email to him? That is a very difficult question, and email seems to be a problem. I mean, if it's like if it's a blast to the world is one thing, but if you're sending to, I don't know, if you send individual congregants that you know live, I don't know.
so WhatsApp group will be less problematic.
Even so, I don't know if it's a problem. You're sending them the Shabbos bulletin, and the Shabbos bulletin includes the thing, and you have some people in your area, presumably. He presumably has enough people within his walking distance, and he's telling everybody what the schedule is. I don't think that's a problem.
So
On the other hand, I was once.
I start lunch at noon.
No, you're telling him about lunch.
Someone who doesn't keep Shabbos came over for Friday night dinner. I know he's in town. I didn't invite him. I said tomorrow we start lunch at noon. Just want to give you the schedule.
That sounds too
Welcome
clear.
on Shabbat.
Sounds too clear. When you're making Shabbos announcements, you're a communal event. You're not a private event that
No,
you
but
need
in the
an
email,
invitation
in a
for.
shul, for example, there's 50 people. 25 keep, 25 don't keep Shabbos. So you have to inform the shul. You're not going to go over to one by one.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
No, if you're sending an email, you can definitely get rid of those people who.
No, but even the people that are outside of walking distance, they need the Dvar Torah for Shabbos. You're not sending schedule. I don't know. That becomes more of a shayla. If you send them a shul bulletin, which has other things, you're not telling them to walk on Shabbos, to drive on Shabbos.
And if it's a schedule to a group, then there's a.
David says you're not allowed to walk from Sunny Isles to Bal Harbor on Shabbos or Yom Tov, regardless of Erev. That is not correct. The reason you're not allowed to walk from Sunny Isles to Bal Harbor is because there is no Erev. That is why it's outside the Tchum. If they would make an Erev, which would be very difficult across the bridge and across that whole park, over park, which doesn't really have houses, it's very halachically problematic to make an Erev. But if they could figure out how to make an Erev, that would create a contiguous Tchum Shabbos and it would be allowed.
Can you invite people for Yom Tov? For Yom Tov day.
Why is the other different than Shabbos?
The fire is not like the biggest deal.
Nah. Not Makabal.
Someone said so.
Not Makabal.
I've heard it.
Not Makabal. Not Makabal. I had this Shaila on Shavuos when my son was in Cuba and he had invited, different people to come. And some of them said, in the past, the people that have come here have given us money to take a taxi to come to the meals. So, so my son called me, what, is there a heter? It was Yom Tov, Shavuos. So I thought maybe Yom Tov, driving, Yom Tov, fire, Tzarech Ochel Nefesh, they're going to eat, and it's a goy driving them, and maybe you could pay him before Shabbos, whatever. Called him by Vosner, and he was not impressed with the question at all. And that was that.
It's like you want to tell him Shabbat to drive. I mean,
Anyway,
But
okay.
Are you saying Rabbanim used to give money to people to catch a taxi? To
They
go?
were Rabbanim, they were Bachrim, who are sent out, you know what I mean? Not necessarily with the best training or information, and they gave themselves a heter.
on this side, he's Israeli, and the second day he wanted to drive.
No, they're not Israelis. I mean, there are Israelis there, but this wasn't for them. The rabbi makes there for the areas. Rabbi Blank told me not to walk from Sunny Aras to Bal Harbor. That is correct, because there is no Erev. And I don't know if there's a halachic way to make an Erev over such a big area that has no houses. So that is correct. In practice, that is correct. if they could make an Erev somehow, some way, then it would become allowed. Okay, so with no further ado, we are going to learn the Alter Rebbe on this topic. It is Seif Yud Beis. Seif Yud Beis. Mishanas and Pasatana b'Shabbos ba'atzma. A person who put bread on Shabbos itself. The reason he says Shabbos ba'atzma on Shabbos itself is because until now we're talking about Erev Shabbos. Now he's talking about on Shabbos. Ben b'shogig, ben b'mezid, whether by accident or on purpose. And now he wants to take it out from the oven before it bakes. He's allowed to, even though it is not necessary for Shabbos. He's not allowed to eat it. Forbidden. A person does malach on Shabbos, shogig or mezid, he can't benefit from it. So he's not taking it out for the sake of eating it. He's taking it out just to save himself.
But he is taking it out for the sake of not breaking his Shabbos.
Exactly.
Rabbi, you allowed to benefit after Shabbat with this one?
B'mezid never. B'shogig, yes. Even in their ovens, that you had the concept of peeling, right, which was forbidden. The reason is the Chachamim permitted the person to do a small avera, but Rabbanan, so he should not come to a more serious Isser Chatas. If he's able to do it with a shinoi, with an unusual way, he should. But they did not permit somebody else to do this scraping, even with a different way, so that his friend should not come to chatas eskila. So, because we don't tell a person to sin in order to bring merit to his friend. And here's the key punchline that we mentioned earlier. Because his friend was negligent by putting the bread into the oven, so therefore we're not allowed to help him, even with a small oven. If he had not been negligent, or in the other cases that we discussed, in the kidnapped girl's case, then it would be allowed. All right, moving right along. Back to the big Shulchan Aruch. Zayin, b'tanurim shalonu, shein behem redia, mutar lo yitzi yosim shosh seudos b'sakana v'shum davar sheyitchev boi, m'komakom leyetzi bereches mishum demechzik ovdin d'chor. We said this already in the Alter Rebbe, and in our ovens, that does not involve any scraping, you're allowed to take out more than the amount for 3 meals with a knife or with any item, right? You could just use whatever, but you shouldn't use a reches, which is the tool that bakers use to take out their bread, because it looks like a weekday activity. And the Magen Avraham points out, like we mentioned, that this is only if you're going to eat it on Shabbos. You don't need it for the 3 meals. You have already bread, but you want some extra bread, then you're allowed. Whereas if you're not planning to eat it, you cannot, because you cannot move anything on Shabbos for after Shabbos. Moving right along, lo yamali adam kedeira asosyois.
If you're cooking for Motzei Shabbos, then I think it's what it means. If you're cooking for Motzei Shabbos, it says the calls of Betanu she'ein tzorch betit. אבל אם הוא צורך בצית או שאין לו אופן לצורך שבת, רק במוצאי שבת יש לו זמן להפקות מותר, ולא תזרין במחיר הגנה שמלאכת. So you wouldn't be able to take it out for Motzei Shabbos?
Gotta look back at that and remember. Where are you?
Here at the end, I was reading the Ramah. The Allah was talking about the person's taking out the mardah.
Okay, בכל זה בטענר, שאין דור בטות, אבל מותר בטות, או שאינו איפה לסור שבס, רק למוצא שבס, יש לו זמן לאפוי סוי, מותר. What's the pshat in the Ramataka? How do we learn the pshat?
That he's cooking it beheter,
Why is it better?
because over here it's not Tzorch Shabbos, so he was never meaning, he never did an Isser Shehiya,
Why didn't you do Shehiya?
because his mind wasn't for you're allowed to cook on Shabbos.
Oh, that's I remember. Yeah. Here's the pshat. You're right. Thank you. Just reminded me. Here's the thing. Generally, you're not allowed to do Shehiya, even if you intend to eat it for the next day, and by the next day it's going to be finished cooking without any stoking, because you may change your mind. So here, why are you allowed to bake it for Matzah Shabbos? You might change your mind. So what's the heter? The answer is you're not allowed to scrape it
With the mark.
with a marda. So therefore, you're not going to be able to take it on Shabbos. So for sure, you're going to leave it in there for whole Shabbos. And by that time,
Take out with that knife.
even with a knife, is only mutter if you need it for the 3 meals. It's not there's no heter stam.
And he's saying, Lo Gazrin b'Chaygat.
And you can do Shehiya, and you can do that kind of
Leave
Shehiya.
it in the oven. until
Leave it in the
Shabbos.
oven until Matzah Shabbos. That's correct. That's the whole point of that
Meaning
heter.
the bread would not. Would just,
You'd have to really know what you're doing to make bread in that way. But yeah, that's what he's talking about. Leaving
Sorry.
it until Matzah Shabbos.
because the cause of it, Shalanu Shein Tuf Batit, about Im Tuf Batit.
That's one heter.
Yeah, so Tuf Batit.
That's one heter.
Yeah,
That
Tuf Batit, you'd be allowed to take it out even with a mark. Because you did it beheter.
you did it beheter, correct?
Over here, you also did it beheter.
You didn't do it beheter. I mean, you did it.
Which one?
You did it for the purpose of you did it before it was cooked a so you're not going to be allowed to eat it on Shabbos, which makes you usher to scrape, which makes it mutter. It's like
Which makes it much of what?
which makes it mutter to do. Because you're not going to be allowed to take it out on Shabbos, so now there's no chance you're going to change your mind to eat it on Shabbos day, because you have to keep it till month Shabbos, so therefore it's mutter.
Why wouldn't you need spread it over?
You're not allowed to.
It's not allowed to.
No, in general, the whole thing of scraping out with a knife, even with a knife, is only a heter
So they're
if you have
only
nothing
giving
else
the
to eat.
allowance here to cook something in the Erev Shabbos, even if it's not allowed to do something, bread, yeah? And to not do the Shiyasu, meaning it's also on Shabbos, the only thing they're lenient here,
Yeah.
I got to look as Rinan,
Is that it's not
B'Dei
possible,
Shiyasu.
and you can do it. I mean, we generally don't say you can do an isser, even though it's not usher to benefit from. Yeah.
Sure that it has anything to do with order?
That has to do with the murder.
No, I'm
That's
saying, no, you're saying the negative part. Since you're not going to do the marde, so you're not going to eat it from beforehand.
so exactly. So you're stuck with the Talmud Shabbos.
Why aren't you allowed? So why wouldn't you be able to do it with the shimon?
Even with the shino is only allowed for an exception. Yeah, if you look back, it says. Also in Hay,
There, he did it best. Over here, he did it better.
I'm sorry, Yossi, what were you asking?
I don't recall.
So let's just look back. Rafael is asking about.
Oh, I didn't hear something, so I was asking about a question, I think, but I've forgotten now.
The question that Rafael is asking is about the end of Seif Hay in the Machaber, which is where you want to, where the person put it in for using on Motzei Shabbos. and was saying that Rama says it's allowed. And I was saying the reason is because he's not going to be allowed to scrape it, so therefore there's no chance he's going to be able to use it on Shabbos, so therefore there's no problem of stoking. But the question of is asking if he's allowed to do it, then he should be allowed to scrape it. The whole thing is about not scraping is when he did an Isser. Here he didn't do an Isser.
I thought the scraping itself was problematic.
Yeah, but it said if you didn't do an Isser, oh, that's true, actually. That's true. Even the scraping itself, even if you didn't do an Isser, is only mutter if you need it for Shabbos. It's only mutter if you need it for Shabbos.
Didn't it say, they were trying to find if the person couldn't do it with that shimon that we allowed him to, so he would do it with the mother.
Here, the very end of the Machaber of Hay. Even if you did it in a heterdik way. Got it?
I'm just trying to find it.
The end of the Machaber, right before the Ramah. If you did everything right, but you simply don't need the bread for Shabbos, it's asur even with the shinui, because after all, Radiyas Apas is an isser, even with the shinui, and they only let you do it if you need it. If you don't need it, they don't let you do it. So that's the thing. If
Maybe
you
that's if it was done with this.
no, nothing to do with that.
Well, that was something that's been done with this.
No, right before it talks about no isser. Right before. Exactly. Right to Kedarkoi. Nevertheless, yep. Kivega says, he has more than he needs for he has more than 3 meals. So that's the thing. If you're doing it for Motzei Shabbos, means that you already have enough for the 3 meals. That's why you're doing Motzei Shabbos. You have enough for Friday night, Shabbos day, Shabbos afternoon. Nah, Shabbos Shudas. You're making for Malava Malka, so of course you're not allowed to take it out on Shabbos because you have no use for it on Shabbos. So that makes it more to do even in the first place because you're not going to be allowed to take it out. Shkoyach Yossi.
The Haggah who says it goes too all this is would be allowed if they weren't goes on right?
Yep.
Is that the difference?
We have a minion. I'm missing one. I hope they'll still be here. Okay. Okay, good. I'm sorry?
The Haggah says
Yep.
calls them interpreted. All what we spoke about so far is interpreted.
Yep.
And if it's interpreted, so no Gulabasrina.
That's one. That's one heter.
So if it would be interpreted according to the one, would you be allowed to take it out with murder?
Only the tzarech.
Okay. Yeah, that would be only tzarech. Oh, Shehiya if it's Shabbat. Over here, I'm not saying, I'm just trying to point out the difference that there is. Over here, in the halacha was talking about you're only cooking, you're lechatchila cooking the tzorach. And now you see that you don't need that much bread, so you can't take it out. But in the Haggah, it's saying that you were lechatchila cooking for Motzei Shabbos.
So what's the question?
So in the case of the Machaber, you're cooking l'tzorach Shabbat. Now you are allowed to take it out. So you take it out as much as you need. You need 2. You need lechem for each meal. 2, 4, 6. You want to take out the other 5 for just taking them out? No, they were cooked for Shabbat. You can't. Since they were cooked for Shabbat, you can't.
Since they were cooked for Shabbos. Since you don't need them for Shabbos, and in general, Radiyas Apas is forbidden, there's no heter. Not because they were cooked for Shabbos, they were punishing you. Oh, you cooked it for Shabbos? And you're not going to use it for Shabbos?
There was no issur done by cooking it for Shabbos. The whole halacha was saying came unto the Avad Yisrael v'tzorach Shabbat. He didn't do anything wrong. He did the hatmana permissively. So
and he needs it for Shabbos. So that confluence, right? Those two factors makes it allowed.
What if it's in an oven that's 12 petit and it's off? What's the Shabbos?
Then what? What do you need both for? You don't need both. I don't understand what you're getting at. What's the point? Because what's the Shabbos? The Mechaber, the Ramah says it's allowed. Why
I'm
would
saying
you?
in general, anytime this whole rule of Shalot Tzorfei Masur Fil B'Shinui applies in any situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't help us for today because we don't have the ovens that you have to scrape it. So if you do it now, let's say once a Shabbos, there's nothing stopping you to change your mind and use it for Shabbos. So therefore, you may be machata. That's what I'm saying.
That we wouldn't be able to take out bread that we wanted to cook. If we cook bread permissibly, then you still wouldn't be able to take out from Moshe Shvat you have to leave in the oven.
I'm saying if you cook bread now on Shabbos,
Erev
Shabbos, and you say I'm going to keep it in the oven until Matzah Shabbos, so it's allowed. I should be allowed because I'm not going to be tempted to stoke it and get it out early because I can't take it out. But you can take it out. You understand? If we say that you didn't do anything wrong, the bread is mutter, you didn't do anything wrong, and taking it out, there's no problem to take it out because it's not stuck to the side of the oven. You don't have to scrape it off in any way. So you didn't do anything wrong. The bread is mutter. You might want to eat it for Shabbos, and then if it's not ready, you'll stoke. You understand? See what I'm saying?
So you're not allowed to cook. So what's
Nowadays,
Yeah.
if you have your dough
Uh-huh.
and it's not going to be with a crust before Shabbos, it's 10 minutes before Shabbos. It takes 15 minutes to form a crust. It's not going to form a crust.
By the way, the crust that we're speaking about is on the side that's touching to the bottom. Would be the bottom of what's touching the grate.
In nowadays, we had a machlokes. Is it both sides or one side?
I saw the Machaber said the back, and then for a cake would be front.
The Machaber said it would be the side touching the oven, which was the hotter side, or for the cake, it would be the side touching the coals, which is the hotter side, obviously. And the Ramah, at least the way some learn, the Ramah says that it has to be both sides. It's basically machlokes.
Okay, so and
The Machaber seems to hold that it's only one side.
the example would be you're not allowed to.
So you're not allowed to put in dough to the oven right before Shabbos in such a way that it's not yet formed the crust. Why? Because you may stoke it. And even if you say, well, I'm going to use it for Matzah Shabbos, I don't need it for Shabbos, so why would I stoke it? Yeah, but you might change your mind, and you might decide that you want it for Shabbos. And then it's not going to be ready, and you may stoke. Understand? So
even nowadays, we're not allowed to cook for Moshe Shabbos.
exactly, because nowadays we could change our mind. In those days when it was stuck to the side of the oven and you wouldn't be allowed to take it out, then you would be able to change your mind because you wouldn't be able to take it out. So then you'd be stuck using Matzah Shabbos. That makes it allowed. Understand? Okay. With no further ado, did we finish? Yud Beis we did. Yud Gimel. Actually, back to the Mechaber. Lo yimale adam kedera asosios.
Did we finish that? Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Ches in the Mechaber. Lo yimale adam kedera asosios. Pish bin kidneys like this versus so a person should not fill his pot with beans. Viturmoisin, and he translates that as vetch, which according to the note is a type of bean usually used for animal fodder but edible for humans after extensive cooking. V'yitin l'sechatan Erev Shabbos, and put it into the oven on Erev Shabbos, samach hashecha near dark. Because these things do not need a lot of cooking compared to raw meat. The whole point of the sif is to contrast these foods with raw meat. Raw meat, we said you could put in right before Shabbos, and we're not concerned you're going to stoke. It's not going to be ready anywhere till the next day, no matter how much you stoke, so it's allowed. These are different. They could be ready. And therefore you might decide to eat them immediately. Therefore, even if they're not cooked at all, they're like other cooked dishes. That started to cook, but did not cook all the way, so that you're not allowed to leave them in. Same thing applies to a kira or a kupach, which is not covered, and you might stoke. The im also Cain, if you did this, afilu b'shogig, even by accident, so you can't benefit after Shabbos. Now, the way the Mechaber quoted this halacha is the way the Rambam understands the halacha. For your information, Rashi and the Rashba learned the halacha exactly the opposite. They say that beans take so long to cook, and that's why it's asr. The Rambam says beans cook faster than meat. That's why it's asr. Rashi and Rashba says they take longer to cook than meat, and that's why it's asr. I heard my wife and my daughter having a little exchange when they were making the challenge before Shabbos, and my daughter was looking for something to put in because I don't know. I guess we were out of barley or whatever else they usually put in, but no rice, right? Nice, no rice, beans. It was like beans in the bag, not canned beans. So my daughter said, "What about the beans?" And my wife said, "The beans take 24 hours to cook or to soak. You have to soak them 24 hours before you cook them. Otherwise, they take a very long time to cook."
No.
Yeah. Raw beans?
I use raw beans.
Really?
No, you put them in the thing for us, and not have gas. Take out the gas.
Oh, is that what it is?
So they won't make you.
Oh, okay. I thought it was just to soak it.
Actually, it depends. If you're making cholent in a crock pot on a low temperature,
Yeah.
the bean might not cook. So if you're going to make it on a high temperature and it boils, then they might. Then they will. So if you
Paul
boil,
does it every week in a crock pot on a low temperature.
Lower high.
All right, Rafael's works. What type of bean? Kidney beans. Try it. Try the kidney beans. Slacha.
kidney
Okay.
bean on low. He doesn't boil it beforehand.
You don't boil it beforehand? No.
You don't put it on high and then turn it down. He actually leaves it on low all the time.
Yeah, that's what he says. Chickpeas too, he says.
Impressive.
Okay, so anyway, that was my wife's opinion. But the point is,
I've definitely had crunchy beans in cholent.
yes, I have had that. I have had that experience. The point is, the Rambam says,
Their voltage is 220.
anyway, the Rashi and the Rashba says that these things take so long to cook that even for your Shabbos day meal, you may have to stoke. Again, let's go over the issue. Raw meat, it says, is mutter. Why? Because for Friday night, it's definitely not going to be ready. For Shabbos day, it's going to be ready even without stoking. However, say Rashi and the Rashba, these beans, if you don't stoke them, they might not be ready for Shabbos day. Friday night, you can forget about it. But Shabbos day, maybe yes, maybe no. So you may stoke it. That's why it's also different than raw meat, which will definitely be mutter for Shabbos day even without stoking. Yes.
I asked all this in the beginning. I forgot what answer you. That they were under the impression that raw meat takes such a long time to cook for sure not for Friday night, definitely for Saturday lunch.
Right.
But nowadays it can take an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Our Forkash points that out, and he recommends we not use the heter of raw meat on our ovens. Yeah. Or Malcha ben Dusai. Because he says nowadays, I mean.
Have you seen anyone else speak about that?
I have not, but he has extensive notes. So I'm sure he's quoting other people, yeah. I'm sure he's quoting other people. I don't remember who they are, though.
Why did their meat take so long to cook? They had low temperatures in it?
I don't know if it was the low temperature, maybe they cut it, they sliced it thicker, maybe they didn't, maybe they kept thicker pieces.
Was it also that I think the Rav mentioned a few classes ago that the ovens weren't dispersing heat as well as ours do? Like our ovens are made to be like perfectly.
Their ovens were insulated. I mean, we see that the tanner is said to really keep in the heat for a long time, even better than ours. Ours have the opening on the side that lets out the air. They didn't have that. But remember, they didn't have such good fuel. I mean, the fuel died down. You can't, Shabbos obviously you can't add to it. So the fuel died down. So maybe it didn't have that strength to cook it so well.
There you go. That's a good answer.
So I
It
think
couldn't keep it at constant heat, that's for sure.
No,
It only
not.
went lower, unless
Exactly.
it went a little bit higher, I guess, just when it starts.
maybe.
And then it just kept going
Yeah.
up.
Exactly.
so. This is a particular type of bean, Mr. Moose, that he's talking about.
The trumas is a particular type of
Type
bean.
of bean.
Associates, I really don't know.
So
but
there's no way to, according to what they're saying, there's no way to cook those beans for Shabbos.
there's no way to cook it that it'll for sure be
Sure.
ready for Shabbos day. Maybe yes, maybe no, but there's a doubt, so you may stoke it. That's why it's not allowed.
For
Oh no, there is a way to cook it.
Well,
There is a
you
way.
free-
There is a way. No, just cover the flame. Cover the flame. This is all with an uncovered flame. Understand? If it's covered, it's no problem. So the Lavush, by the way, says that there's really no machloikus between the Rashi and the Rambam's pshat. In other words, if it's a bean that cooks quickly, then it's forbidden because of the Rambam that you may get it ready for Friday night. And if it's a bean that cooks so slowly that it may not even be ready for Shabbos day, then everybody would agree it's forbidden for that reason. You understand? In order to be mutter like meat, it has to definitely be ready for Shabbos day, but definitely not be ready for Friday night. I don't know if there's such a bean that exists, but that's the
Shal
one.
Shivas, do we consider Shal Shivas nowadays?
I don't know.
The bean will definitely be ready by middle of Shabbos.
Right.
The meal,
Right, but you may want it ready earlier, even though it'll for sure be ready by the third meal. You may decide.
may be ready, is that?
Saying you may decide you want it for Shabbos lunch.
So you may want to decide you want your what's it called, your raw meat.
No, that's exactly the point. That's exactly the
You
point.
get 50%.
Even if you would stoke it, it would not get ready for Friday night. That's what it says about a raw meat. That's why you would not stoke it, because it would not be ready for Friday night, even with stoking. That's what it says. Okay. One more in the Mechaber, then we'll go over to the Alter Rebbe. Kiyotze boy, similar thing. Lo yimale chaves shalmayim v'yiten lesoich hatan or erev Shabbos im chashecha. A person should not fill a barrel with water and put it into the oven erev Shabbos as it's getting dark. As it's getting dark, he means to say just before night, just before Shabbos begins. If he does it, it's forbidden to Shabbos with Shehiya. The point is that water, of course, takes a short time to boil, and therefore it could be ready for Friday night, and therefore we're afraid you might stoke it. So it's not like meat. Now, of course, the question is, why is this different than fruit, which we've said in the past, fruit is edible raw, and therefore it's considered already, even if it's not cooked at all. So water is obviously also drinkable raw. And the Magen Avraham answers because the difference in quality between cold and hot water is so great that we're afraid you may stoke it. The difference, well, not if you want tea. Not if you want tea. If you want cold water, yes. But I'm saying the difference between apples and cooked apples, even they're both a snack and they're both good and whatever. It's just a different style. But the difference of cold and hot water is very different. So therefore, we're afraid you might stoke it. That's one answer. The Magen Avraham says another answer is that you're not planning to drink it, you're planning to use it for washing dishes. And for washing dishes, you definitely need hot water to get off the grease or whatever. So therefore, it's like not really useful if it's cold. So that's why we're concerned. Okay.
If someone would have, I think we spoke about this, someone would have hot water on a flame, in the Erev Shabbos, it got boiled already. Is he allowed to scoop out, I don't know what the word is, take a spoon or one of those soup ladles and take out from the water on Shabbos, even though it's on the fire?
Actually, I did see that it's allowed with liquids, yeah. Because liquids, there's no real difference. The whole thing about stirring doesn't apply to liquids, to pure liquids.
So if I want to have hot water, I don't have what's it called, a dispenser of hot water. So I'm allowed to put a hot pot of water on the fire at a gas oven and leave it there the entire Shabbos on a low temperature and take out as much as I need with a ladle.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I read. We'll We'll discuss it in Shin Yud Ches, the end of Shin Yud Ches. But that's what I read. Okay, back to the Alter Rebbe. Yud Gimel. Lo yimal adam k'dei asosius v'termois and ashar kol mini kidneys v'niachol gam k'dei kira el sechatanu shelanu shenatuch v'tid and men go for k'toim. Elam ken yeshus b'yim she'ispash k'mach m'dusoi lefi min hagenu. Aval me'ein shos b'yim kol kachas l'anich Hashem v'fidusam al chashech mamish b'nyin shekayetzu b'zeh v'osar much l'ashesh esam Kiun chuchal legam yisam l'chashech l'yichol legam ad l'silis l'layla aval kol mini kidney yasem b'maram l'izbash l'chol legam b'silis l'layla u'chein adin l'chol mini yirakas. Mo v'nich Hashem b'im shek b'im meitzin l'yin isplash k'mach m'dusoi v'yodiyam asur v'tzasham v'deshi yasam. I'll just read through the English. A person may not fill a pot with beans, vetch, or other kidneys and place it on a range or in an oven of the present era that is not sealed with mud, if their coals were not removed or covered. Why does he only talk about it? Tana or Shalano? Because those Tanarm in those days, even if you covered the coals, it was still a problem. Right? That's what we said, because it retained heat so well. So he's talking about our ovens. If their coals were not removed or covered, unless there was enough time during the day on Friday for them to cook the extent of Macham and Rusoi, according to the prevailing custom. Prevailing custom meaning to say like Hananya, not like the Mechaber. According to the Mechaber, as like the Chamim, it would have to be more than, it would have to be fully cooked and already stomach or raloi. If, however, there's not enough time in the day for them to cook to that degree, it's forbidden to leave them there, even directly before darkness, in a situation where, were it meat that was placed on the range, it would be permitted to leave it there, since it was entirely raw directly for nightfall, it could not be completely cooked in time for the evening meal. All types of kidneys, by contrast, cook rapidly and could be ready for the evening meal. The same law applies to all types of vegetables. If a person transgressed and left beans or vegetables on such a cooking surface, whether knowingly or willfully, and they did not cook to the extent while it was still day on Friday, they've been to be eaten until Saturday night. After waiting time, it would take for them to cook. וכן הדין בנויסן מים בגדי לחמן לסנו שלנו שנגור פקות מוזר שסייה אפילו סערו הסקלה בשבס שצורך שיניח שהמקדם מבוינים כל כך שיהיה שעוז ביים שיוך לסחם אחד סיכון וחתחיל לפי מנגנו או שיחם כל צורק ולא יסם להשל שמתיו שנספה שמלך לסוי אפילו כל צורק עד שיהיה מסתם גרלוי חם במים חם וגם כמסתם כנרלוהם. The same law applies when one places water in a pot to warm in an oven of the present era, from which the coals were not removed or covered. Doing so would drinking purposes or even for the sake of washing dishes on Shabbos. It's interesting, and the Magen of Rome seems to say the opposite, that washing dishes is more reason to forbid it, because you need it hot more so than water. Water you could drink cold. Washing dishes, you need hot. Alter was using it in the opposite way. Even washing dishes, which is not so essential, tea you need. Washing dishes, okay, you'll keep them dirty, big deal. No, even so, we're afraid you'll stoke it for that purpose. As an initial preference, the pot must be placed there early enough in the day on Friday so that according to our custom, there will be enough time during the day that it will be able to warm to half the extent it is intended to warm. Again, according to our custom means chananya, so all you need is macham and rusoi. Or so it will warm to the full extent, according to the authorities who forbid living condition was cooked to the extent of macham and rusoi. That's according to the chacham, you need to be fully cooked, so then it has to be fully heated. Or even if it was cooked entirely until further cooking would cause it to deteriorate himself growling. Hot water is also considered a substance that further cooking causes it to deteriorate. Once the hot water reaches the boiling point, even the chachamim would agree it's permissible because it is considered mitztam mikvara loy. It's considered to get worse. It just evaporates once it boils. It doesn't get any better.
Can we say that if we have a platter and it's impossible to stoke the coals, we could put water onto that?
You could put what?
Water onto it.
You're talking about from before Shabbos without reaching it to the halfway point? Is that what you mean?
Even, yes.
So it's not just a plata, it's really the same. Oh, you mean with a plata that has no change in temperature? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, that's correct.
Okay, but an urn is more problematic because it goes on and off?
No, an urn that has a control is more problematic. An urn that just has one switch on and off is also the same thing. The question is if the rules of Shehiya apply to an urn that you can't change the temperature, or a plata you can't change the temperature, and the answer is no. that is considered the same as a covered flame because you couldn't change the temperature if you wanted to.
Don't let it more than 5% before Shabbos.
If there's no control of the temperature.
On and off.
On and off, yeah, that's okay.
So up and on, even if it starts cooking 100%.
That's correct.
Why can't I put it on Shabbos?
Well,
Well, I'm heating it. I'm not cooking it. And is there bishul for water?
yes, there is bishul for water, absolutely.
I thought we just said that it's because we're afraid someone will stoke the coals.
No, that's if you put it there before Shabbos. On Shabbos, there's bishul, of course. Okay. Now, by the way, there is a discussion in the Meforshim. What about this? The Alter Rebbe says here, Sheyechamu chatzi chimum, chatzi hachimum, nescham chatzi hachimum, half of the heating. What does he mean, half of the heating? Water is considered cooked once it is Yatzalad's boy. So what is chatzi hachimum? Does it mean half of Yatzalad's boy? The Meforshim say no. The Meforshim say it means half of the intended heat, which generally nowadays people don't drink water before it boils. The intent usually is to boil the water before drinking it, kill off the germs, then let it cool. So it has to be half of that.
Half of that. Full or half?
No, half of boiling.
The full one.
Exactly. Then you're allowed to leave it there on Shabbos, according to Chazal, even though the flame is not covered. It's halfway to the boiling point. In other words, halfway between room temperature. It doesn't mean halfway between 0 and 212, which is 106, which is even less than Yatzalad's boy. It means halfway between room temperature, which is what it starts with, and the boiling point. Halfway.
That's the ground, right?
No, not Yatzalad's boy. Halfway between room temperature, whatever that is.
From the start of it.
70, I don't know, whatever it is. 212. 140 or something, I don't know. But Moshe says it's around Yatzalad's boy. It's around Yatzalad's boy.
What is around? I thought it was 108. That's what.
Moshe is not sure what it is. You understand? I think 110 is where it starts, but it ends at 160. You know what I mean? Like Lahachmer, we say maybe 110 is Yatzalad's boy. But on the other hand, if something is 110, you can't heat it up further because Yatzalad's boy might not be until 160 is his other end. Understand? So this is somewhere around Yatzalad's boy, is what it is. Okay. You want to check if there's even one? If there's two people, we need two. If you have two, then we'll stop now and have Ma'ariv.
There's 7 in the room.
7? Oh, I thought we had 8.
He's 8. So we have to go with 2 guys.
Who's that?
So he's 8.
Who's sitting there?
Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8.
Okay, that was him. Okay,
No,
fine.
he left. Your own left.
Your arm left. Okay,
So
fine.
we need 2.
Yeah, we need 2 more.
He's here. So we think we need 2.
Okay. Okay, yeah, bye. But 1 second, do we have 6 that didn't daven?
I didn't know.
You didn't daven?
He done.
You didn't daven? Didn't. Okay, I didn't. He didn't. I assume. All right. Even though we sent him on a mission, we will continue anyway. I hope he's moichel. You shouldn't put it right before dark because the water heats up quickly. Even though the water heats up, even though the water that is cold is also good to drink, nevertheless, they're not so good compared to raw fruit. If you left them there, whether on purpose or by accident, and they didn't reach a third of their heat before Shabbos, remembering that a third can be relied on b'diavad to be considered machman d'usoi, then they're forbidden to after Shabbos with Shabbos. Moving right along. Remembering they used to have these ovens where you had a pot that you could use to heat stuff in. It was really a heating oven for the temperature of the room, but there was a place where you would put food that you wanted to heat, keep hot. And they would also put water there in any case so that that shouldn't split. And they would sometimes use that water for washing dishes. So here it says, you cannot, before on Friday, it's forbidden to place water in the pot that is permanently affixed in the winter oven, unless they're going to reach halfway to the heating point before while it's still day. Even though his main intention is that it shouldn't split the pot, he also wants to use them for washing dishes, which is the normal way. We're afraid he may stoke the coals. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Copies of any of your friends lurking in the.
Even though it's permissible to do smicha next to a tanner, that's not gor for kadam. If this kedera sticks out over the coals that's on the fire, it's like putting it over the coals. So this is not putting it next to an oven, this is like putting it over the coals in an oven. And if you put it there, even by accident, when they were not a third cook, before day. Also, you cannot use it even for washing dishes until after Shabbos for the Shehiya. Here's an important parenthesis. If you put it there before the oven was heated, then perhaps we can allow it b'shogeg. And this is based on what we said in the past, that some say that since it's on this pot was attached to the roof of the oven, which is not really.
We're right in the back room. What? Wear clothes. You don't have to wear anything, kids. Yeah, button down shirt's fine. Just come. Bring your brother too. Okay.
Shkaya.
Brides now, so.
Well done.
I make it both of them.
Well done. Excellent. Okay. So they say when your children get a license, it's man cheruseinu. The adults, the parents are free. Okay, so the point is that there is a svara to say that the pot on top of the oven is not considered to be directly over the fire because it's on top of the roof of the oven. But it's usually there. There's nothing to remind you. It's a question. But if you also didn't put it there when the oven was on, put it there before the oven was turned on, then the oven was turned on later. So at the moment you put it there was no chashash of chitui. So that's another reason to be lenient. And then b'diavad, he allows the use of this water. So it's a similar thing to what we said. We had this case before. If the goy is going to put it on first and then stoke the oven, we had more reason to be lenient than if the guy puts it on after he already heated the oven on Shabbos morning. Okay, the next two simonim are not really Shehiya and hatmana simonim. The next simon I was really going to learn properly is Reish Nun Zayin, which is about hatmana, insulation. But since we have 9 minutes until Ma'ariv and until your sons come, I'm just going to read it in the Alter Rebbe, and we'll read it. Why not? It's Torah. Simon Reish Nun Hey, the laws governing the permission of fire before the onset of Shabbos. I'm just going to read the English. You'll forgive me. It is forbidden to make a large fire, a medura, using wood as fuel close to nightfall on Friday, unless the fire catches hold to the extent that the flame burns on its own accord without the assistance of other wood. So here you're making a fireplace. You're making a bonfire. So most of the wood has to catch fire. Otherwise, there's a decree lest one stir the wood on Shabbos, moving the piece of wood until the flame ascends on its own accord. So here you're not cooking anything. You just want the heat of the bonfire. You have to make sure most of the wood catches fire. Otherwise, you're afraid you may stoke it. If only one log is burning, the fire must take hold of the majority of its circumference and its width, so the circumference and the depth of it, while it's still a day on Friday. I.e., the fire must penetrate more than half the width of the log and must cover half its circumference on the outside. Under such circumstances, the log will burn on its own accord on Shabbos and will not need to be stirred. Otherwise, it may start dying down, and chas v'shalom, the person may forget and turn it over or whatever. When wood was not kindled while it was still day on Friday to the extent described in this previous subsection, even if later on Shabbos in and of itself the fire took hold to the extent that there's no concern that one will stir it, it is nevertheless forbidden to benefit from this fire on Shabbos since it was kindled in a forbidden manner while it was still day. This is the principle, the whole principle of Shehiya. If a person did a forbidden Shehiya, even though he didn't stoke, but he still can't benefit from it, because the Shehiya itself is forbidden. They forbade it because he might stoke. But if he didn't stoke, the fact is he did an Isidra Abanon, and therefore he can't benefit from it. If, however, the wood was kindled to the extent described in the previous subsection while it was still day, a person may warm himself by that fire and use its light, regardless of whether the wood was burning on the ground or on a holder for fire. Even substances that are forbidden to be used as wicks for the Shabbos lights, right, we read in the Parak Mamem Madlikin or Me'en Madlikin, there are things you cannot use for Shabbos lights because it doesn't hold the flame well, but that only applies to Shabbos lights because the flame will float around them, will not catch well onto them. As we explain in section 264, they're still permitted to be used as fuel for the fire in any situation. The rationale, since there is a large fire and contains a large quantity of fuel, one piece of wood will cause another to burn. So here we're not concerned like we are by the Shabbos candle. Shabbos candle, you have one wick. It doesn't burn properly, there's a problem. But here you have a whole bunch of them. You have a whole fireplace. So even if one is not burning so well, in general, it'll burn. So therefore it's okay as long as the majority of them catch fire. There are authorities who maintain that if coals are used for kindling, even though the fire only started burning minimally on its own while it was still day on Friday, it's permitted to benefit from it because they'll continue to burn on their own. So coals are different, they burn more readily. There are other authorities who differ with this ruling. Nevertheless, with regard to rabbinic decree, when we follow a more lenient opinion. It's interesting, by the way, when it came to cooking, like Shehiya, we said we're going to follow the stricter opinion, even though it's Rabban, when there was no clear psak. Like we said about the Machal ben Drusoy, a half or a third. In Bishul Akam, the Machaber says a third. Here he says a half. And it says, well, it's the Chumrah of Shabbos. Here it's also the Chumrah of Shabbos. And Alter Rebbe says, it's Darabanan, you can be Mekel. So I shouldn't look at the Mefarshim, but I'm just thinking that it could be the cooking is more strict than other things, because people are very concerned about their food. Not sure about that. Medura shel zephes, when tar, sulfur, straw, or stubble are used as kindling for a medura, even though the fire only started burning minimally while it was still day on Friday, it is permitted to benefit from it because these substances will continue to burn on their own. So these don't need to be stoked. The same rule applies when reeds or date pits are used as kindling when they are spread out. They also burn fast. If, however, the reeds are bound in a bundle, the pits are collected in a basket, then the fire must take hold of them to the extent that it ascends on its own accord, because when they're collected in such a manner, the flame cannot penetrate them on its own accord. All right, moving right along. Section 256. I'm just reading it through because it's just the bridge from 254 to 257. When the Jewish people were settled in their land, our sages ordained that 6 shofar blasts be sounded on Friday afternoon from a high place to alert the people to conclude their work. At present, and he explains, by the way, in note 1, Shabbos 35b states, 6 shofar blasts are sounded on Friday. The first, to alert the people in the fields to cease work. The second, to alert the workers in the city and the storekeepers. He then waits the time it takes to roast a small fish or to attach a loaf to an oven wall, and then sounds a tekiah, trua, and tekiah, and then it's Shabbos. So those are the 6 blasts.
It's a very short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even between the first 3 and the last.
No, there's one to tell the people in the fields to stop work. There's another one to tell the people in the cities to stop work.
I'm saying, how long is that period?
He doesn't say, and that's the Gemara. This is just he's not quoting the whole Gemara. He's quoting the beginning. And then tekiah, trua, tekiah, Oh, yeah, between these two is very short. No, there's one missing here. There's one missing here. First, second, then there's a third, and then there's another 3 at the end. Basically, before Shabbos starts itself, there is a little warning to do the last minute things, then Tkiya, True Tkiya, and then Shabbos. Understand? They give you like a 5-minute warning to stick your pot in the oven or whatever. Okay, but the point is, at present, the custom in holy communities is that a half hour or an hour before Shabbos, an emissary of the community announces that everyone should prepare himself for Shabbos, for it is necessary to add from the mundane to the holy, as we explained in section 261. They used to have an actual fellow who would go around and announce that people should
Stream.
well, announcing or just knocking on the doors. Like they used to have, the Shabbos used to go around before Shul, Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, telling people to come to Shul. So this is a similar thing. They would go around telling people it's almost Shabbos. You know what I mean? It was a little town, a little village. It is appropriate to institute this custom in all places where the evening service is recited at a later time. Meaning, say, in place where they're taking Shabbos early, there's no need to announce this because everybody's stopping work when they say Baruch Hu. But in a place where they're taking it in later, they should announce it. And until today in Israel and someplace in America, they have the sirens. At the very least, a person should be sent to alert craftsmen to cease work from Mincha Katana 2.5 hours before nightfall, as explained in section 251. True commercial activity is permitted after Mincha stated there. Nevertheless, it is appropriate to send out a person to see to it the stores close approximately an hour before nightfall. Because quite often, leaving them open leads to a great stumbling block. At times, basically what it explains in 251 is that this time from Mincha Ketana, 2.5 hours before Shabbos, you're not allowed to do melacha. You're not allowed to, if you have a store that actually performs work, you're a car mechanic, you're a, electrician, you cannot work after Mincha Ketana on Friday afternoon. Forbidden. Chachamim said it's forbidden. Now when it comes to business, which is not malacha per se, that's not forbidden from Mincha Ketana. However, an hour before nightfall is forbidden. Why? Here he says nightfall, which is not clear if he means Shehiya or actual nightfall. I saw in the Ktseis HaShulchan, he says that it means actual nightfall, and he wants to say that's where the Minhag Yerushalayim of the siren 40 minutes before Shehiya comes from, because he says 20 minutes approximately from Shehiya to night. So the 40 minutes is when you have to stop. This is the announcement that they did. Bavram Chaim no. Ktseis HaShulchan. Bavram Chaim no. Ktseis HaChoshen is Heller. I mean, he's much earlier. He's from 18th century. No, he's the famous one, Choshen Mishpah. I don't remember his name. Heller, I think, was his last name. It says Shulchan is Avram Chaim. No, he's before the war, a little bit after the war in Eretz Yisrael. He's the one with the Shiur Torah, yeah. So at times, if you leave it open, it leads to a great stumbling block. At times, a non-Jewish personage will come to make a purchase, and the negotiations over the price will continue into the night itself. The responsibility of such conduct lies with the communal elders, as our sages interpret the verse, Va'asimem beroshechem, which the Gemara says, Va'oshmam beroshechem. The osham of the community, the sin of the community is in the heads of the leaders, if they don't stop them, or warn them at least. One must also caution the general population to presume that license is granted them to do anything that they must do for the sake of Shabbos, as long as the congregation has not recited Baruch Hu, even though it's already actually after nightfall. Some people think mistakenly that until Baruch Hu, when they're Makabel Shabbos, it's not Shabbos, which is of course not true. If the sun sets, it's Shabbos, like it or not. It's therefore proper to recite Baruch Hu early. That's the best way, right? People take a Shabbos early. There's no work, that's it. The community should not delay its recitation in consideration of a person of stature who has not yet come to the synagogue. It is a merit for him that Baruch Hu be recited earlier so that Shabbos not be desecrated because of him. A wise man's eyes see from the outset.
How does that go by the
Yeah, it was just the same thing.
It goes by every community.
Don't we do this?
Sure.
And
The
some schools have-
pashtus, you can choose to be part of a later shul on a given week. If all the shuls accept it early, then the pashtus, you have to accept it early. Although you could say, well, Hannah Lakes is part of, Greater Miami, which there's plenty of other places that accept it late. So that's probably a good argument. The Rebbe said the proper way to observe Shabbos is to close the business by Chatzos on Friday. He once told this to someone who was asking for bracha or parnasa. The Rebbe's exact quote about this is in a book. Very nice. Yeah, I was buying my kapata before I got married, and the guy who ran the place, I wonder if he's still alive, I don't know, Hartstein, really then an elderly gentleman, and he was so nervous. It was like 1:30 in the afternoon. Plenty of time till Shabbos. He was like, I was the last customer. He said, I have to close the store. It's almost Shabbos. I have to close the store. So yeah, it is definitely better to stop early and not work till the last minute.
Baba Sali had Baba Sali had his son-in-law in Morocco.
Yeah.
He almost asked him to divorce his daughter because he traveled on a Shabbos morning or something like that. He got in at like 1 o'clock and he said, "That's it. I'm going to go see your father."
Shabbos morning or Friday morning?
No, Friday morning. I'm sorry, Friday morning. And for Baba Sali's family, it was like 1 o'clock is too late.
Yeah.
If you can't abide by 1 o'clock, then you can't be at the family.
Yeah, the Chafetz Chaim also never traveled on Friday. He would travel on Thursday. He wouldn't travel on Friday. All right, all the best. Good evening.
One quick thing. The Alter Rebbe talks about bringing in Shabbos early and saying Baruch Hu early,
Yeah.
as if it's a good thing. But I thought that we actually hold differently and that he might say differently in the Siddur. Is that right?
He does not say differently in the Siddur, but we'll discuss it tomorrow. Most Chabad do not take it in early, but we'll discuss it tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, all the best.
Thank you.
Have we got a firm view on what's happening next week?
Next week,
You said the 25th.
I'm not going to be here Tuesday. I'll be here Monday. Sunday was an option, but I see you're doing something Sunday night.
Oh,
Women's Share. Let's discuss it next week.
okay, we do
I mean, let's discuss it.
Wednesday. Yeah.
Can't do Wednesday. Oh, you mean this week Wednesday? No. Next week Wednesday? I don't know. Maybe. Let's talk tomorrow. We'll discuss it tomorrow.
I might not be able to make. I'm flying back.
Okay, we'll discuss it tomorrow. All the best. Bye.